sin. I don't care if you are a sinner. You know it's wrong.
Right.
How many of you, now I'm not going to say this to the younger people, Brandon, but all the older people that's here, how many of you before you got saved, when people would ask you where you're going with the little humorous joke, you'd say, hell if I don't change my ways.
Yep.
Did we all say that, or most of us say that?
Yes, we did. Yep.
Especially the Southern folk. That was just a funny thing for us Southern folk to say. Where you headed? On a hill if I don't change my ways. But yet, then if God really touched your heart and convicted you, and you were like, oh, there's more truth than that, and I want to admit.
Right.
Amen. And how many of you know you couldn't change your ways? No matter how hard you tried to change your ways, you're still on your way to hell.
Whoops.
Until Jesus came and changed you. Amen. Amen. I'm glad that some of you folk knew what I can relate to what I was saying. Amen.
Yep.
Amen. So listeners, I'm trying to hurry, but this is some important stuff. It says, and the men were exceedingly afraid and said unto him, why hast thou done this? For the men knew that he had fled from the presence of the Lord because he had told them. He told them. All of this is happening because I fled from the presence of the Lord. Well, wait a minute. Let me get this straight. You just said that you fear the God, the Lord, the God of heaven, which made the sea and the dry land? And you're fleeing from him?
Oops.
Think about that. Even these pagans had enough sense to know something wasn't right here.
Right.
Even unbelievers knew something wasn't right here. Jonah, you must have lost your senses.
Lost your mind.
Jonah,
I told him
has
over.
your cheese slid off your bread? Jonah, are the lights on and no one's home? Are you a few fries short of a Happy Meal? I mean, we can go on all day if I could think of them all, but the point is, they were looking at this dude like, you are nuts.
4.5 cents short of a nickel.
You must have lost your mind. Have you ever looked at people and just wondered?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever met somebody that exceeded your limits of your medication?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Wow.
Some people just get on your nerves.
Yeah.
Now, I thank God I don't have to take medication, but I have met people that if I did, they would have exceeded it. Amen? Praise God. Now in the 11th verse it says, then said they unto him, what shall we do unto thee, that the sea may be calm to us? For the sea wrought and very, how you say again? Tempestuous. Tempestuous. And he said unto them, take me up. Now I'm going to tell you something. Now all of a sudden true character is starting to come out. We criticized him before. We said, what kind of prophet is a disobedient prophet? How can you be a prophet if you're disobedient? But now his true character is starting to come out. Now I'm starting to admire the man. Amen. Let me tell you something. Don't ever discard a man who does something in his weakness. Don't ever criticize someone who done something in his weakness, because he can get right with God in a moment's time. Amen?
Mm-hmm.
I know people that have done stuff and 20, 30 years later, that's all people think about. I remember two brothers that came to our church many years ago. They come to sing, and a sister, she said, you know something? Said, I don't approve of this. And then she came back later and she apologized. And she said, you know, I'm sorry. She said, because what these men did 20 years ago doesn't have anything to do with them today.
Right.
She said they did some 20 years ago, but they probably repented since then. That's been a long time ago.
Yeah.
We had a pastor that left our church. And years later, somebody called me and said, Brother Tim said, is it true that when Brother Pierce left the church, he took all the money from the church? I got mad. I said, that man didn't take a penny. Yes, he left the church, but he never took a penny. And he was on the phone with me and on a CB talking to someone from the neighborhood. And he said, look, I'm going to tell you something. This man was here when it happened, and he knew all about it. He said it didn't happen. Man said, well, you know what? He's probably right. He said, that was just a rumor in the neighborhood. Man, you see how the devil lies.
Yep.
Amen?
Oh, yeah.
But 30 years later, people didn't remember the 25 years that he ministered to them, that he fed them, that he bought them shoes, that he went to prison and jail to visit them, and even went to court to help get them set free. They only remember the one time that he fell. Yeah. Even when he died, I posted a thing on Southside's Facebook page, and some young man started making some kind of remark. I don't remember what he said, and I rebuked him. I said, that's not true. I said, that's a lie. He said, oh, I was a member of the church. I said, I was a member of the church, and I never seen you there. You know what he said back? Nothing. I had another fella from the south side who's not saved, got in there and just ripped him completely, tore him up. He wasn't polite about it either, and he used some foul language. But he told him, said, he's a man, he's a human, and we all fell. Don't you dare, basically, is what he was saying. Amen? And there was a few other people got on there and just told this guy off completely. He never got back on that page at all. I later realized that who the guy was, and he did come to the church a couple times, but he just came a couple times. And it wasn't even at that point in time, it was before. Amen? You see how people are?
Yep.
You make one mistake, and they don't remember all the good you've done. They only remember the one bad thing.
Right.
I'm giving you advice today, folks. Forget the bad things. The Bible says, think on those things that are good and pure and honest and of good report. Amen. We've all sinned and come short of the glory of God. Mm-hmm. We've all messed up. And I got news for you. I don't want to, Marlene, I don't want to speak this into existence. But for the grace of God, we can fall again in the future. I said, but for the grace of God, we can all fall.
Amen.
That's why we need the grace. That's why when I pray, Lord, I confess I walk in abundant, exceedingly abundant grace. Because grace isn't forgiveness, grace is keeping power. Say that again.
Yeah.
Grace isn't forgiveness, grace is keeping power. Grace keeps me from sin.
There you go.
Amen. A lot of times we sin and don't even realize it.
That's
When
right.
we're on the phone gossiping.
That's right.
It says, wherefore they cried. The 14th verse. Oh no, let me go back to the 13th verse. It says, let me go back to the 12th. I'm sorry, I'm getting way ahead of myself. Take me up and cast me forth into the sea, so shall the sea be calm unto you. For I know that for my sake this great tempest is upon you. Are you listening to this? This man's true character came out. He said, yeah, I messed up, man. And I deserve to be punished, but you don't. Cast me into the sea. But let me show you the character of these young men. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I find it interesting that in this passage he says, you throw me into the sea. Instead of taking himself and jumping into the sea, it shows that he was afraid of what was going to happen.
Of course. It's easier for someone else to do it than you to do it.
Absolutely. It's just something I noticed.
He says, nevertheless, the men rowed hard to bring it to land.